Welcome back, gorgeous souls, to the Rise with Anita podcast. On today's episode, it feels like a full circle moment for me because I am beyond honored to welcome Lauren Eliz Love, a woman who has not only inspired me deeply, but who has also been a part of my journey since the very beginning. Lauren and I first connected back in 2020 when she was stepping into a brave sabbatical to rediscover her truth, and I was just beginning to tune into what my soul's purpose is. Little did I know that witnessing her and her rawness, her healing, and her embodiment would be a catalyst for so much of my own becoming. Lauren is now a spiritual teacher, soul-led entrepreneur, and the creator of the Heal program. Through her work online and within sacred spaces, she guides women in healing trauma, reclaiming their power, and rising into aligned wealth and purpose. She is the essence of devotion in the divine feminine path, and her story is one of a courageous surrender, sovereignty, and deep soul leadership. In this episode, we're about to go into the messy, magical portals of healing, creating from embodiment, and trusting the unseen. So take a deep breath, soften your heart, and drop in with us as we have this conversation being an initiation. Let's rise together.
Oh my God. Did you write that?
Partially.
I'm like getting emotional over here. I'm like, oh my God, of course we're recording this on Lionsgate. This makes so much sense now.
Right? I mean, just it's like a full circle moment. Like, we've had this, like, for those of you who don't know, we've tried to record this a couple of times now, and for some reason, when we finally had the calendar on, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go with 8/8, not thinking of Lionsgate. But I recall when we did meet, it was literally August of 2020.
It's insane.
It's
It's so
insane.
crazy. Yeah, and it's been a 4-year journey for the both of us. I mean, like your energy is so different since the last time we connected, and it's really amazing. We get to come full circle and have this beautiful deep dive. And hello to everybody listening. I'm so honored to be here and have this talk with you today.
I'm so honored to have you here. Like, honest to God, when I was starting to gear up the guests for the podcast, I was like, I need to reach out to her and just see if I can get her on because your healing journey has just been so beautiful to watch. And obviously, there's been the raw and like very vulnerable aspects of it, but then there's also been that aspects where I've seen people not be so kind to you online. So it's very interesting to watch that entire thing kind of play out for you.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I love it actually. Like I'm not gonna lie. I'm a former people pleaser, very insecure, very worried about what other people think. And being in the position I am now in my life, I realize that when I'm receiving a lot of that judgment, I have a bunch of people watching going, oh, how is she going to handle this? Because you're seeing something that, many people are so afraid of. Like, we're afraid of getting negative feedback, and we can totally dive into that too. It's been a wild ride, a beautiful journey, and I love that I've been able to share so much of that with you and many of the women who've been following me along the way the last 4 years. It's been such an honor.
It has been so radical to just see how people's responses are because as I'm starting to like step into being more vulnerable online, there's always that like voice in the back of your head of like, if I share this, what is the feedback? And honestly, watching you even transform like mind, body, heart, soul has been so enticing because you've literally just put it all for everyone to see.
You have to.
And I
I
just
mean,
wanted to honor you for that. It takes a lot of courage to actually put yourself out there and be like, I'm in the mess and here's how I'm kind of navigating it.
yeah, I mean, for me, when I took the sabbatical 4 years ago, I felt like I had to be honest and I had to be authentic because at the time I had so many people who were following me who wanted to build business like me, who wanted to create success like me, but I was so not in a good place. And I knew that I needed to share it to ease the attachment people have to perfectionist energy, thinking like, oh, she's really successful. She has everything I want. I must really want every aspect of her life. And I'm like, girl, I don't know if you do. It's rough over here. So being able to pull back the curtain and be authentic about what I was navigating at the time, it really fortified me into a place of being able to claim myself and express myself fully. And I think that's what we're all trying to do on social media, is just have safe space to express ourselves for who we are.
Absolutely. I think the more authentic we are, especially as like AI is becoming a thing, is so much more important, I think,
Mm.
now than ever. Because it's like we can all fit into the AI molds, or we can still show up as our true expression and show our hearts. And that's what I think is actually the future of this space, especially with coaching wellness. And to me, I was literally just telling someone, like, I don't think live events or like live retreats will ever go away because we need that in-person connection.
Mm. Yeah, I completely agree. We've actually started running in-person retreats again over the last few years. Many of your followers might not know, but I work with a lot of plant medicine facilitation and serve ayahuasca now with my teacher, and we're bringing a lot of women to Costa Rica, and we're also doing non-medicine related healing retreats in New York. And that is the feedback we get from everybody, that in-person work is, there's such a craving for it now. Like, we're ready to see ourselves fully, but we're also ready to be met by being fully witnessed in spaces that are safe with other women face to face. It's, yeah, it's such an important part of our reality. And I agree, it'll never go away. Never.
I mean, the more that I've found myself using AI in the ways that I do use it, the more I'm like, okay, but I'd rather just be talking to a human.
Mm,
Like, he will never replace a human for me. And there's that whole aspect of um, people kind of look at it as like a outlet to maybe start navigating what they don't want to share about. And for me, I'm just like, I still cannot get on board with having like a therapy session with like an AI. Maybe it's just also part of my healing journey has been very through different like programs and people, and actually sitting with the feelings of having that space held. So I don't know if maybe that's also part of my bias towards it, but it fully could be.
well, listen, it's good to know your needs. I have a friend who uses AI every morning to process her dreams, and she loves it. And she gets a lot of reflection and a lot of point of view, but I don't know. I think ChatGPT likes to just agree with everything you say. And I don't know if that's necessarily a helpful approach for all of our healing journeys. Sometimes we need to hear the hard things, you know? So, anyway, that's, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm still learning my relationship to AI as well.
It's okay. I literally was talking to a friend yesterday, and it was like I had shared an email I had sent with her, and she was like, "That is amazing. Did you use AI for that?" And I was like, "Oh, girl, that was 2023. I didn't. I was not on the AI bandwagon yet. Like, I just started somewhat like playing around with it this year because I was just like, it's not. It's clearly not going away, so I might as
Mm.
well afford it. But in essence, I was just like, oh my god, no, we're not going there." All right, so like let's go ahead, and I want to tap into what we were talking about before we flipped the camera on, which was really about Lionsgate portal, which is the day of the recording, and how this moment kind of maybe is mirroring your sabbatical and your inner evolution, because I'm sure that's a factor.
100%. I did a post yesterday. For anybody who doesn't know, Lionsgate is August 8th, but the portal kind of opens energetically before that and closes a little bit after. And I don't know how to define it other than to say it's a potent time, and it works differently for everybody. For me, my sabbatical journey and taking a really long pause, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in the show, it started officially a little bit before Lionsgate, but my flight to go to Sedona and stay there long term was on Lionsgate. And it was the same day that my medicine teacher was facilitating his first ceremony there. And every year on Lionsgate, around this time, I lose my shit. Like I get stressed, I get overwhelmed, I get uncomfortable. I feel like I'm being put into a pressure cooker of like bigness, essentially. It's like more is coming into my field, more opportunities, more creation, more responsibility, more ideas. And I feel myself very stretched to that energetic capacity, just kind of meeting my edges of trying to hold everything. And then I feel the old shadow feelings of like overwhelm or doubt or insecurity. And then I have to sit with those parts of myself and feel them, as we say. But Lionsgate is one of those times where you're either manifesting more and opportunities are coming through, or the shadow's coming up really strong. It's just a period of time where the veil between this realm and the realm we do not see gets very thin, and you can start to see signs and synchronicities more clearly and feel more aware of emotions, energetics, intuition, all of those things. So that's where we're at right now recording the show, which is perfect and so sacred to me because it's really a time for me to reflect on how far I've come too. And I'm sure you feel the same way in this 4 year period of time.
Absolutely. I mean, I look at it and really when we met, I was at that like arc of like starting to do the work and then realizing, oh no, I am actually meant here to serve and help people along their journeys. And it was actually in Sedona where I had like the name for the business come through, the tagline for the business. And I was like, holy shit, this is like a thing. Like I'm meant to actually help people heal and transform their pain into purpose, which is my tagline.
It's crazy how you are not the only woman who tells that story. Sedona is like the place where everything becomes clear. And that's why it's so special to me. That's why I took my sabbatical there in Sedona. It's such a sacred energy. The land makes you really wake up to your truth in such a beautiful way. So, yeah, there's a lot to celebrate here. 4 years, full cycle, and so much clarity since. I love that.
Absolutely. And I think for those of you who don't know, and I will have to repost this photo of us, but I like had ran into you like at a Whole Foods.
I
And I
know.
remember it was like our first or second day there. And I was like, holy shit. Like, what? Like, I listened to her on her podcast. I think at that time we had already done like 2 courses together. And I was just like, oh my God, like, what a vortex. And then I ended up meeting Catherine and Aaron Dowdy all on the same trip. And I was just like, within days. And I was just like, well, if there's a sign that I'm actually meant to be in the same space, I don't know if there's any more of an apparent sign than running to people who are already doing it. And not only just doing it, but they're like crushing it and they're magical at what they do. And I had so much to learn from each of you in my like journey, so I'm very honored.
I love that. Yeah, we were all there at the same time, and it's like on purpose. You know, it's always divinely orchestrated, and sometimes you do need people in the field to just kind of pop like little guardian angels pop up and be like, hey, reminder, you can do this too. Reminder, this is meant for you. Reminder, you belong here. It's such a beautiful thing when we start to listen to the signs in that way and receive those allies and those confirmations to allow us to feel really trusting of where we actually want to walk in our life. That's why I always tell people, like, if you don't know what to do, ask for a sign, man. Like, ask. You will see it. It will come. Always
Oh
does.
yeah, absolutely. I remember being so burnt out at that point where I was like, okay, the world is a mess. I need to take some time to go and like everyone and their moms during that season was in Sedona. And I was just like, I feel the call. So I literally like booked a very last minute trip. And I was just like, you know what, whatever. Like, I'm just going to take some, I haven't taken a vacation yet. I'm going to go take a trip to Sedona, see what the hype is all about. Because I kept hearing like the energy is different there. And I have not been back since, and it's killing me. And actually, I
Girl,
have a trip to Arizona in like 2 weeks. And I'm like, how do I stretch this out to
you
like
gotta go.
make the drive up?
You gotta go.
Literally, it's such a like amazing place. The downloads are. I have not had downloads that quickly, that rapidly, but anything in my life
Oh, I know.
than the way it was in Sedona, honestly. So I'm gonna say, what would you say is the energy or frequency you're currently embodying? as you're reemerging from this like kind of like Lionsgate portal essence, so to speak?
Mm. Yeah, so I I think it's important to say that when you're on a healing journey, it's a soul contract. It's something that's going to be happening for life. And
Hmm.
do think that sometimes people idealize and even glamorize the approach of taking a sabbatical and like, I'm going to go away and I'm going to do this whole thing and I'm going to come back and I'm going to be so changed and different. But the truth is you're always going to be healing and you're always going to be evolving and changing. And so for me recently, I've been out of my sabbatical time for the last 3 years, and I've been integrating and applying what I've learned to change and grow and improve. Most recently, it's been about feminine energy specifically. A lot of my healing has been related to sexual trauma, and it's been related to things that really carried in my my womb and my heart and my throat, and just feeling like I've been afraid to express, afraid to be myself, or afraid to speak my truth, afraid of failure, afraid it was all fear related, right? As the way it manifested. But recently the next layer is feminine embodiment, and I've been really studying what it feels like as a creative to unapologetically express my voice in an even deeper way, and to also meet my needs for rest from a place of nourishment, which I think is a really missed mark for a lot of people. Rest is something that comes when we've done a lot of hard work and we can say, okay, you did a hard work day, you get to rest now. But rest is actually sacred, and it should be a ritualized practice of our reality on the day to day. It shouldn't be something that's a extreme reward to binge out and watch Netflix all day after a hard day of work. We deserve rest and nourishment as a feminine frequency. So I've just been really tapping into that and having so many creative projects on my plate right now. Like, you would be shocked if you heard how many projects I'm working on. It's really important for me to move from my feminine frequency and not from that masculine of overdrive or overwork. So I've been really navigating those two pieces, and that's what's been really illuminating in the Lionsgate portal as well.
That's actually so beautiful and such a amazing pivot to what I actually wanted to get into, because for me, especially, like, being fully in business is new. And so I've been very conscious of trying not to be in hyper masculine as you're in the build phase, because I find that I lived so much of my life in that masculine, like, do, do, do. And I realized just recently where when we even met, I was starting to like learn this like process of like manifestation and really fully embodiment. But I was still in this like approaching manifestation from a very masculine point of like, even the meditation I was doing, it was like to check it off. It was not to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a different shift in consciousness, but it's definitely that aspect of like, how do I get to slow down and actually receive versus like just try to make it happen.
Yeah, it's a lifelong study for a lot of women to learn how to come back into that, because in this world of social media, the masculine and feminine frequencies are playing equally important roles, right? When we talk about like business, some of the words we use are consistency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Discipline, structure, marketing plans, launch strategies. Like, that's all very masculine. It's all very much a achievement focused energy. And in masculine energy study, we understand that it's about getting something done, it's about achieving a certain thing, it's about providing and creating safety and structure. But for a lot of people, we've been entrained through our upbringing and our conditioning to be in that frequency and how we move. So, what that looks like is always trying to take action and always trying to get things done and always making your to do lists. And when you're making masculine energy the forefront of your frequency, where you're living and breathing in that charge, you're actually not you're making things harder. You're not making it any easier for yourself, because our tanks as women, they get drained more easily when we're in that overdrive. So if you're in feminine frequency, you lose track of time because you're having so much fun. You're in pleasure because you love what you're doing. The experience of what you're experiencing is the outcome, and it feels so good to have that experience. Feminine energy is about presence. So for all of us who are healing and showing up and building businesses, we have to start to redefine how we can show up in a way on social media that feels really good, that we enjoy, that feels like life giving to us, not life taking. And part of that is about switching into that place of trusting your body and learning how to express what you want to express. And it gets a hell of a lot easier when you're doing that versus thinking in the logical mind of what you should be saying to get an outcome you want. So much to talk about on this concept, but feminine energy is so, so important, especially when it comes to manifesting.
Absolutely. And I think the thing I find the more I've stepped into my feminine, it kind of magnetizes opportunities and things that I would have not thought would happen, or maybe not happen at this point of the business, where if I was trying to be in that masculine and like, oh, I'm going to make this happen, I don't necessarily know that outcome would have happened.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So my first $1 million year was so fascinating because I had spent like 5 years before that being like, I'm gonna make $1 million a year. I'm gonna make $1 million a year, and I never did, right? But I was like always so aggressive on it. And then when I went through this really deep healing journey and was unraveling my attachment to money and just really looking at like, why does this mean something to me? I got into this frequency where I really didn't give a shit. And I was just like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm good. I can enjoy my life. I'm happy. I have a beautiful reality. So grateful for everything I have. And when I shifted into that, where I was being present with what I had my first $1 million year. And then I had to study what it was like to be like, okay, yeah, that happened. I don't have to keep pushing to have the $2 million year. I had to learn the same lesson at new levels. So it's really interesting. Like, when you think about things and you're so in the logical mind of how am I going to make this happen? How am I going to manifest this? What do I have to do? What you're ultimately doing is shifting out of your feminine into your masculine. You're in productivity, right? But instead of that, it's like, who do I want to be? I want to be somebody who loves my life. I want to be somebody who has magic in my reality. I want to be somebody who enjoys every experience I'm having. That's when things really start to change.
Agreed. And I think the funny thing is, the more I've come to realize, like, we cannot operate out of like a masculine energy. I mean, you can dance between the two, but you cannot fully be operating and trying to fully like be in business as a female, as a full-blown masculine. Like, everything is structured and it must be whatever.
So boring.
It must be boring, exactly. But okay, actually that brings me back, because when we first did meet, you were in your business babe era
It
still.
was, yeah.
And so what was that shift like for you?
It was horrible. It was like the scariest thing I ever did. It was so scary because, I mean, have you had shifts of your identity in the last couple of years too? Yeah. So it's like, holy shit, oh my God, like what am I doing? It's a little uncomfortable because my company was branded as Business Babe, and that was what I was running with in the online space, teaching people how to build businesses through social media, through messaging, through storytelling. And I was always very upfront about my spiritual essence, but it wasn't necessarily something I was fully claiming. It was like, yeah, this is a part of me and I'm open about it, but I'm not teaching healing and I'm not teaching the energetics of money. I'm going to teach you how to create success in your business. And what I realized that, looking back and processing for myself, I realized that I didn't want to build that business anymore because I realized that way wasn't the way I wanted to build my own business. How could I teach people how it's so important to have strategy and it's so important to have structure when in reality, the things that were creating more wealth and prosperity in my world were healing and spiritual connection and tapping into your femininity and the spiritual laws of wealth, which I talk a lot about now in many of my programs. That was what really changed the game for me. So to me, it was like I had to abandon this old self to really make space for the version of me that I was becoming. But it was a whole death cycle. It was a whole journey of being afraid to let go of something I worked so hard to cultivate, not knowing if the new version of me would be enough. And I had to walk through the shadows and really face that. But I know better now to say anytime you're feeling called to Phoenix rise, you kind of have to do it. It's important.
I mean, I think there's a beauty in just like having to go through that death cycle, and I'm actually still coming out of mine.
Mm.
So, um, I haven't really shared this story out on my podcast yet, but I was recently laid off from a job that at that point I was very starting that entire career. It was very masculine, and it was now looking back. Because for me, one of the things I've been working on is showing up and using my voice and just owning who I am more. And at that point, I had this career in underwriting, which is the boringest thing you can tell. And I realized the way I was hiding out just from being seen was also playing out in how I was handling a career. And I had been in this, like, I already know what my calling is. So I just turned 30 back in January. And I had this whole mental breakdown of like, I am not making an impact. And like, and literally like I was miserable on my 30th birthday. And my mom was like, sweetie, you are still more successful than half the 30-year-olds I know. And I was like, on paper. And so she was like, is this because you're not married? Because in our culture, it's very common, right, for a woman of a certain age to be like married, at least having her first kid. And I was like, honestly, I could give two shits about being married at this point. It's more so I'm not at this phase of like, I know what I'm meant to be doing and I'm not doing it. Sure enough, 3 months in, April comes out and I'm already like at the point where I'm crying after work, like on a consistent basis, and I get laid off. April 11th comes, I get a message from our department head, and she's like, hey, I need to talk to you. And I just get laid off on the spot. 4 years gone in literally like
Wow.
a week. And I was just like, oh, talk about an ego death. Because I, in my head, was like, I am the best freaking performer here. And to this day, when people look back, they're like, I don't even know why you would have been the one to get laid off. And I was like, But at the start of the year, I was like, my intention is quantum leap.
Well, there you go.
And so I was like, I think the universe was just like, I'm going to get her out of this because she is not leaving on her own.
That's what happened to me too. It's always that push. It's always a push. It's like some people I feel like are the types of people where they can just fa la 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 la, and they just, oh, this feels good, this feels good. I'm not one of those people. I got to be pushed, like the universe is going to send me so many signs and I'm going to play it safe for a hot minute until I don't really have a choice, and it just kind of happens. So yeah, okay, so quantum leap was your calling and it's manifesting. It's so beautiful.
Absolutely. So it's like I get kicked out of this job, and then I'm like, I have this like open space at that point, and I'm like, I could go look for another underwriting job. And I had managers and whatnot that were reaching out like, hey, I heard I can get you another job at another company, no problem. And I was like, if not now, when? If not now, when? Because I realized I've never had this like open space before. And I used to always counter like with what we do with coaching, it's very spiritual. It's very like present focused. You cannot really be kind of like wish-washy. You have to give it the time and the energy and the space for it. And I used to counter that as like, this job is draining my energy. And now I'm kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. And if I fail, I fail. At least I tried, but I don't think it's the case. So it's been this beautiful journey of like how do I navigate? And then I'm finding that the more open I've been, the more the right people have along the lines have came out. And I'm like, there's that divine like trust. So that actually brought me to my next question for you, which was, what would you say having that like trust or that faith is part of the journey for you?
Well, I think like outside of us, like, oh, I have to trust God, or I have to trust my elders, or I have to trust divine timing. All of that is accurate in a sense, in certain timelines of our life, but like trusting our bodies and trusting ourselves, that's really, I think, where trust is first learned and cultivated. I feel like developing self trust for a lot of people is a lifelong study because we've been conditioned to not trust ourselves as children. Trust your elders, right? Trust the rules, trust what you're told, and don't question it. So, inner trust and the relationship that we cultivate within ourselves is often lost. And then we spend our adult life really trying to rebuild that. But a big part of rebuilding the relationship of trust is making decisions. And if you're not making decisions, the universe is going to make them for you. And then you're going to feel out of control. What's happening? I don't know how to take care of myself. Why are all these things happening to me? But to build a relationship, I like to use the word self-reverence, that phrase of like developing self-reverence. So if like my body knows when something's not aligned and I honor that. And my body knows when something's right for me and I honor that. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you walk your life being completely selfish and irresponsible and doing everything you want to do just because you want to do it, but understanding that you can move the needle forward in certain ways by taking actions that feel like they are honoring your truth, right? Self-trust is truth. So for me, it's a huge part of everything. It's a huge part, it's my whole reality to end this lifetime and leave this planet knowing that I developed a greater sense of self-trust, self-knowing, self-love. I'm satisfied. I'm studying that in this life. And I think all self-healers really are.
That's so beautiful. And I'm so excited that you said that because I have really been a big part of what I coach on is actually like your body knows what's wrong or right. Half the time we're just so, especially in the West, we're so in this kind of veil of like, I don't take the time to listen to it. And so I was actually telling a friend of mine, like the day before my layoff, I had this hit of anxiety. And I'm not usually an anxious person, but I just felt very anxious that day. And I was like, I don't know why I feel like something's coming. Something unexpected is coming. And that morning of, I still had that like same wavering anxiety. And then once I got laid off, I was like, oh, it all makes sense now. Like, I already was tuned into the fact that something was coming to change my reality. And so I realized half the time our bodies know. We just don't usually want to acknowledge that the body has that type of sacred knowledge.
It's so true. Sometimes I look back on what was manifesting for me in that year before I took my sabbatical and I had severe chronic illness. My hair was falling out. I had this skin on fire rash all over my body that just burnt so much. And I didn't really know what was happening back then. But when I look at it, for me, it was the body communicating that I was living my life out of alignment. I was working 14-hour days. I was taking on more clients than I actually could hold. I was quantifying my worth by the dollar signs in my bank account. I was chasing validation and feeling never enough. And so my body was really trying to communicate like, hey, this is not how you live. This is not right. This is not in alignment with your own self-love. And that is something that that inner compass, that inner knowing is to be continuously cultivated in our development. It's getting clearer and clearer and clearer as we make these decisions. So I think it's beautiful that you had those feelings as well and you knew how to trust your body and look back on it and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, thanks. And you could laugh about it, but it is very clear, all on purpose.
Always. Always. I really do believe that when we get slow and we take that time for that white space, that's when we realize, like, oh, we actually already know what it is that's aligned. We already, big part for me, and especially since like June, was like the message of like, you already have all the tools, tips, tricks, whatever strategies within you, but it's your responsibility to start to activate those. And it was this message that just over the course of like 1 week, it kept coming up 3, 4 times. And I was like, okay, I hear you. Because so much of the time, I think, especially when you're stepping into something new, it's like, I'm going to find the new strategy, or I'm going to do this like new modality and add it to my tool belt. And then I realized, like, what if we just build with what you already have and then go from there?
Mm, I love that.
Thank you. I'm so like, I have to say, like, I'm totally internally geeking out over this right now.
It's great. We're having such a good conversation. It's beautiful. I'm here for it.
I'm here for it as well. So, what would you say your somatic or spiritual practice have been most supportive in this like embodiment process for you as your most authentic leaderships?
Yeah, so singing has been a huge part of my work in this last era of study. I've found that being somebody who really wants to have their voice make an impact, your voice first has to make an impact on yourself, and to fall in love with your voice, to learn how to use your voice to heal yourself or to feel frequencies to soothe. It's like when a baby is crying and a mother sings to the baby, we have to learn how to sing to take care of our bodies and to nourish. And that's been a huge part of my work. I'm actually going to be releasing a retreat next year, Wild Your Voice, for women who are afraid to be seen and want to step out into being seen more deeply. And vocal activation has just been huge for me. I write a lot of music, I sing a lot of music in ceremonial work. It's played such a big part of my life. And so I would say somatically, that's probably number one. But for me, dancing is a close second. I feel like dancing is so important to move the body, to feel the ability to express and open up your heart space and feel frequencies of empowerment. I actually have a free series that I'm starting next week called The Limitless Experiment. And a big part of it is musical study for women, where we're going to come into dancing at home in our private environments to feel the energy of a song, to move a frequency. Because if you ever have danced and felt so alive, or sang and felt so moved, you are healing your body. And we need to remember how to do these things for ourselves so that we can start to feel good and connected to our vessels. Because then if we have that compass of clarity, we can trust ourselves to make bigger, better decisions. So yeah, those are probably the big two ones that I would say I prioritize in terms of somatics. A lot of people look at like breath work or Tai Chi, but for me, those are a bit more masculine. So I go the feminine route.
Beautiful. And I think there's such a funny mirroring going on because in the recent month or so, I've started to sing again because a big part for me growing up was I loved music. It was always blaring, and now the running joke at home is like, please tell me you're not going to buy a karaoke machine. And I'm like, that's a great idea. I just might. But it's that like connection with voice, and I realized as I'm starting to like step into this like embodied leadership, it's like, how can I use my voice more? And honestly, I love that you're writing music because that used to be fully like who I was. I would just sit there. I never actually took actual like piano lessons, but I could play by ear, which I was like recently just thinking like maybe I should fish out the keyboard I have in the
Oh yeah,
garage
for
and like
sure.
start just playing again, just to play.
Yeah.
And I think I never would have anticipated that that's more of a feminine way to go about it.
Yeah.
But it makes total sense now looking at how you kind of still connect with voice and body and movement.
Yeah, the vocal, if you look at the throat, right? the larynx, the trachea, all of this internally, it looks identical to the yoni. It's like almost identical. And so we understand that like our creative life force and our voice are so deeply associated. They're so deeply connected. They're so deeply familiar. And working one teaches you how to work the other. And our creatrix energy and our womb space, it's all about desire. It's all about following what makes you feel alive, life force, energy, passion, pleasure. Like, we need to understand those frequencies. And for some people, because of trauma history and because of the things we've been through, we're very like turned off from knowing what we even want or knowing what even feels good. And so the voice can be that tool to do that. And it's wild, right? Our voices are so wild and there's such a range, and being able to tap into that is really healing too.
Absolutely. And it's so beautiful because it's like, as I've started to sing again, and what really prompted it was I was at this mastermind event, and one of the guys goes, "You seem very creative." And he's like full blown, like tatted up, like has been in the music industry for years, writing a lot of these big hits. And he was like, "You seem creative." And I was like, I guess you could say you're not wrong. And he was like, "Why do I feel like there's something musical about you?" And I was like, okay. When you know, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you're right. I used to sing. And he was like, "Well, why didn't you? Why did you stop?" And I was just like, why did I stop? Because you don't tend to realize when you've kind of really started to disassociate from your essence until it hits this like point of like, oh shoot, I really have lost who I was at my core.
And the healing journey is about reclaiming that. And so it's beautiful. And I think it's incredible that, as a coach, you feel comfortable to talk about these things, because the more we can actually share vulnerably about what we navigate and what we're healing, the quicker we can actually create change.
Absolutely. The word for me this year has actually been reclamation.
Oh, I love that.
I was like, wow, what a mirror.
Reclamation. That's a beautiful word. Yeah, it's amazing.
So what would you say the most significant differences in your results after shifting from that like hustle mentality to pure alignment?
Yeah, so pure alignment is something that I think we always want. We're always very inspired to feel purely aligned. How great would it be if my whole life felt so in alignment? How amazing would it be if I just was always feeling good 24/7? That's not how it works. That's not life, but you certainly can end a deep element of suffering, right, by shifting into a place where you know how to ebb and flow and expand and contract and trust your process, and not have it be an emotional roller coaster of whiplash every time you're growing. That is, to me, healing. So healing is not about erasing the ups and the downs. Healing is about understanding that the human experience has a spectrum of emotion, and it is a range, and you can master it and be in a place where all of the ranges of emotion empower you, right? So now in my life, going from a place where I was very burnt out all the time, my emotional homes were very different. Emotional homes, I teach about this in the Heal program. Understanding the emotions that you spend the most amount of time in are the most familiar. And so in my burnout era, my emotional homes were unworthiness, overwhelm, and anger. And majority of the time, I was in those emotions in my life. Yes, I had some moments of happiness and blah, 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 but most of the time I was angry because I was living out of alignment. I was burning myself out. My body was angry because I wasn't prioritizing my self-care or my rest or the permission to feel good within myself. Right? And I was angry about that and overwhelmed because I had too much on my plate all the time. I wasn't living in my truth. Now, anger and emotional overwhelm and feelings of low self-worth are probably a 2% of my human experience. And they manifest when I'm growing or I'm stretching or I'm changing and I'm coming up on new edges, just like we talked about with Lionsgate, where I have to kind of feel these old energies and go, oh, it's interesting. Like, overwhelm is bad. Okay. What's going on? I'm growing, right? And this is the reminder to refine myself, to come back into deeper alignment. So, yeah, just to say that maybe that gives you a little bit of clarification where it's like not those emotions never existing, but in alignment and living in an aligned life, the majority of the emotions you experience are joyful. And that's really where it gets to feel good. Life gets to feel good, you know. And from there, beautiful opportunities come. My businesses, I have three businesses now that are operating at beautiful levels of prosperity. And it was all created through trust and through listening to what felt really good and exciting for me. And so I think that is something to share as well. Just like business is great because I'm following my truth, you know?
I love that you said that. And honestly, I think you touched on something that I'm super passionate about, which is the fact that there's this misconception if you feel low, oh, you're not going to manifest that, like, whatever it is that you want, because these lower vibrational feelings are going to prevent you from that. And I'm just like, but we're on a human plane, and that's part of the human experience, whether we like it or not. And what I've found for me is as I grow into like another level, or if I'm stepping into something new, it's only natural that that feeling of like doubt
Oh,
or
yeah.
the feeling of uncertainty comes up of like, oh, can I actually do this? Because it's new territory. And I think
100%.
that's where the statement of like new level, new devil comes up. Though I'm not the biggest fan of that, but it's like that interior like shift of like trying to come through of this is new territory.
Yeah, I mean, every plant knows that it's outgrown its pot because it meets an edge. You know, like you only know that the plant isn't going to fit in the pot anymore because the roots are at capacity and it probably feels that way. And then you put the plant into a new environment and the plant starts to wilt and feels uncomfortable and wondering if it's going to stick and stay. It's like that's just us. Our human experience is just like a plant. We meet edges and it's uncomfortable. We get stuck and then we get put into new environments that feel uncomfortable and we're wondering if we're actually going to root down and is it going to work and what if it doesn't, you know? So yeah, it's a normal part of the journey.
Okay, so I have a good one for you. Can you share an experience where surrendering, because that's a big word for me right now, to your feminine flow led to an unexpected clarity or success?
Mm. Surrendering to my feminine flow led to an overwhelming amount of success. Yeah, I mean,
Clarity or success.
yeah, so there's this memory I'm thinking of as you're talking about this. When I was in Sedona and I was at capacity as an entrepreneur, I was waiting in my car to go to visit this acupuncturist who was like very well known in Sedona, and I was very excited for the appointment. And I was in my car and I was feeling such a state of overwhelm about business babe. I didn't want to do it anymore. I was feeling really misaligned. I was feeling really unhappy. And I was just thinking to myself, like, I wish this would all go away. Like, I wish I didn't have this, you know? And I went into the acupuncture appointment, and the man who was deeply spiritual, he like prayed over my body before he put all the needles into all the acupressure points. And while I was laying down, the music started to play, and it was from my childhood church choir. Like, these hymns, I have not heard them in like more than a decade. It was so weird that he was playing them on his radio, and they're Latin, okay? These Latin hymns that you never hear them in regular reality. And so I felt like something was happening. I'm like, what is going on? And I get to my car and I open my email after, and I had an email from my lawyer, and she said, Lauren, we have some bad news. I know that you were under the impression that you had Business Babe trademarked. We just found out that your trademark had been argued over and the other company won, and now you have 60 days to get rid of everything that you've ever created. And I was running a $700,000 a year business. I had 4 or 5 employees at the time. My husband was working for the company. I had just rented the second home in Sedona so I could actually heal myself. And I was finding out that this whole business that I thought I was supposed to have forever, that I didn't actually want to have forever, was being taken from me. And I sat with it for a while and had a few breakdowns. And then my teacher said to me, he said, Lauren, you just need to figure out what the fuck you want to do. But the way he said it, was so simple. It's like it pierced through something in me. Yeah, like, what the fuck do I really want to do? Not what am I good at, not what's going to make money, not what do people want from me, what do people expect from me. What do I actually want to do? And that was when all the clarity started to come through. The healed program methodology was birthed. Wild Wealthy Feminine came through. Conscious Creator Mastermind. And my business now is 2 times larger than my companies ever were prior. And it's all because I was trusting what I wanted to do, what my desire was pulling me to, my feminine urge. And it took quite a bit to feel comfortable enough to trust that. But when I look at everything I have today, it's because I allowed my longings to lead, and that's for every entrepreneur. Like, you have a longing, you have something important to you, you have something that excites you, something that matters. Let that lead you, because if you let that lead you, it becomes your legacy. It becomes the life that you end up sharing with the world and impacting the masses with. You never impact the masses because you're good at something. You impact the masses because you long for it. And that's all I'll say about that.
I love that. I'm so honored with that, like the way you said that, because so much of our journey feels like it's supposed to be linear, and it never is.
It never is, no.
And so it's like, I think, especially with social media, sometimes you get into this loop of comparing your successes to other people and being like, oh, well, on paper, it looks like they have it very easy. Because half the time, most people don't want to share about these moments where it's like, there's the breakdowns, and I'm not sure what I'm doing, but I'm going to try to push through it anyways. And what I really always respected about you personally was the fact that you're not afraid to share, like, hey, I am working with plant medicine. Hey, I'm working on my healing. I'm working on this aspect of my business. And it's scary and it's vulnerable, and here I am.
Mm-hmm. Always. Can't do it any other way, girl. I mean, it would be miserable. I would be miserable if I had to put on a mask or hide certain parts of myself or be something I'm not. I don't know how people do that. That's a very tiring reality and really unhappy. So for me, it's I'd rather deal with processing my own insecurities about being judged than keep myself contained. I mean, that just feels really not in alignment with me, and I'm sure many women can relate.
Absolutely. Fake it till you make it does not work.
No.
So what would you say is the point where you see that most women are disconnected from the feminine in their businesses, and how can they begin to bring that back?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think where most women are stuck in their inability to connect to the feminine has a lot to do with what they're prioritizing for their social media. I mean, we're speaking strictly about people who are building businesses on social media. Then I would say this. I would recognize that, hey, you're prioritizing getting it right, getting the followers, getting the likes, getting the engagement, getting the people responding to you to know that you're doing a good job or that it's working. But that metric is what's making it not work. because that metric is an outcome and a byproduct of when you are more focused on saying what you want to say, expressing how you want to express, and making your social media an art project.
Mm.
Truly, right? I think people come into it trying to get a good grade. You know, how many views did I get? Did it work? Did it not work? Did I perform well? Did I not perform well? Do they like it? Do they not like it? I don't give a shit. I mean, for me, it's like if you're in your feminine frequency, you're gonna post something and go, "Oh, I really like what I just shared. That was good." You know, that I like that. Let me go watch that again. That was so good. I can't believe I made that. I'm so proud of myself. You know, like that energy. And that's really healthy to be able to create art. Like your Instagram is your house. So if you're walking around your house and you're like, my mom's coming over. My mom's going to hate that piece of furniture. My mom's going to complain about this. My mom's going to hate this. My mom's going to hate that. You're not going to feel good in your house, right? But if you're walking around your house and you're like, I love how I decorated here. It looks so good. You know, then you're going to enjoy the experience of living there. And we have to be able to decorate our life, you know, in this beautiful way, this artistic way. And I think that's what social media really offers us, is a place to dance in our creative expression. And when we approach it from that perspective and we fall in love with it, the universe responds with likes, follows, engagements, interactions, and then you can start to follow the breadcrumbs. So my approach to social media is quite different than a lot of coaches out there when they're teaching online marketing. It's really more about you than it is about your ideal client.
That's so beautiful. And I, again, because I've followed you long enough, I've seen that like transition in your content where I could genuinely tell at certain points where I was like, oh, I think she just really likes her own vibe right now. And I didn't mean that like I'm saying
You're
that.
right, girl. I love my vibe. Yeah.
And here's the thing though, I love that you love your vibe because it makes me want to engage and want to be more of a
Yeah.
customer from you because you're not out here trying to win me over.
Right. Exactly. You get it. You know, and I'm not saying that my way is the right way, you know, because there are people out there who will tell you otherwise, and they'll say, no, it's actually really important for you to be authoritative and be compelling and be captivating and have quick tips and tricks and education that keeps people enticed and make sure you have a hook and like all of those things. But I can tell you from my personal experience and what I've navigated with social media, you know, having 270,000 something followers that were all built organically and all naturally. The things that went viral and performed really well had very little to do with marketing strategies. There were always things that I posted at a time where I really needed to hear them. And I really was trying to claim a certain frequency of truth within myself. And that's when like the code was cracked, you know? And so yeah, creating for yourself has a lot of merit and has a big impact because then people get to see that love and kindness and self-appreciation you have for yourself, and then that's what's reflected back to you in your social media landscape.
That is so beautiful. Okay, so as we wrap up here, I have two more questions, though I guarantee you I could have probably taken this for another like hour easily. um, Before we hit our quick fire round, which I'm curious for women who are currently in this like burned out, stuck in their masculine overdrive, what would be the first gentle way you would tell them to start to reconnect with their feminine energy?
Yeah, stop reacting. That's the first thing. Stop creating a life of reaction. Like you are, if you're reacting to your cell phone first thing in the morning, you are creating a life of reaction. If you're reacting to an alarm every morning, you are creating a life of reaction. And some things are unavoidable. There are aspects of reaction that we do have in our life, but there are many ways to start shifting from just being controlled by stuff outside of us to being the creator of our reality, you know, and that's really the key. So taking your feminine power back, you know, learning how to create experiences out of your life that are nourishing. Like, don't just take a shower, have an experience. Don't just make dinner, have an experience. Don't just go to the grocery store, have an experience. And if you ask that simple question, how can I make this an experience? You start to infuse your life with more joy, and that joy will radiate and manifest more into your life.
Wow, such a beautiful answer. Okay, so if someone is just starting their healing and embodiment journey, what's one truth or practice you would offer them?
Start saying no. Start saying no. This is so important. Like I can't tell you, like, women who come into the Heal program, or even Wild Wealthy Feminine, these studies which are so deeply rooted in spiritual study, and they're transformative and deeply rooted in inner work. The biggest patterns that I see manifest for a lot of these people in these programs, because it's an old version of me, is like, you don't even know what your no is. You say yes to everything. You people please, right? You pick up the phone the minute your friend texts you. You get everything done that you have to get done just because it's on your list. You're not aware of your no's. And so sometimes, healing really needs space from us, and it needs this opportunity to actually have breath and life force to unpack and to exhale. And when we're packing our schedules and there's no space for that, we get kind of stuck in the distraction. So I would say a great way to take your power back: start studying boundaries, start understanding codependency, start learning about anxious attachment and avoidant attachment, shadow work, inner child, and start to say no to, like, reclaim what feels like a yes in your body. You can only claim the yes if you're claiming the no. That's my tip.
I love that. For me, I've started to realize if it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
For sure, girl, for sure. 100%. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And sometimes a hell yes can, like, feel like a no because you're afraid of it. But if you know the difference, then yeah, you figure it out. But definitely, alignment is everything.
I love this. Okay, so quick fire.
Mhm.
1 to 2 word answers, unless you have a little more. It's up to
Cool.
you. But your current mantra.
This is so funny you're asking this, because I literally today was like, I need a new mantra. So, get back to me, because it's so funny you asked that. Get back to me, you will find my mantra. My limitless experiment has 12 in there that are so good, but, like, I want to find my own for today. Yeah, if you could record a little added intro to let people know when I find it.
Okay. A book that's changed your life.
Boundary Boss. Boundary Boss was huge. Terry Cole, she's also the author of Too Much for Healing High Functioning Codependency. She's an incredible writer, very easy. And that is currently the first book that comes to my mind, though I have a whole collection of my favorite books for self-healing in my free library, and I organize them by topic because it really depends on what you're working on. But yeah, that's on laurenoflove.com. But Boundary Boss for me, I would say.
Beautiful. What's your daily non-negotiable?
It changes every day. I mean, my current daily non-negotiable is sitting down and journaling every morning with a cup of tea. That's something I do every single morning. And then before I go to bed, I make a list of the things that I'm grateful for that manifested that day. And that's consistent every day of my, as long as I can remember. When I'm home, I do that. And then in the day, I have some type of daily non-negotiable commitment. Like today, I made a promise to myself, I'm going to go outside and go for a long walk, right? There's something in the middle of the day that just honors my needs, and that changes every day.
Beautiful. I love that. What's one word that you would use to describe your current season?
My current season is refining. However, the word for the year is dialed. So I've been learning how to dial in, and the process in this particular season is refining.
Fun.
I know, it's a challenge. It's like, yeah, like refining how I show up and how I honor my time and what I say yes and no to and how I take care of myself and all of those things. Refinement is a really important word. Refining my expression, right? Refining how I say things. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Beautiful. So I'm sure our listeners are going to want to listen and connect with you. So what's the best ways for them to find you and connect with you that you would prefer?
Yeah, so you can go to laurenoflove.com. There's a free library section, and in there is the Self Healer's Guide to Books, where I lay out all of my favorite self improvement books organized by topic. And then also to laurenoflove.com, there is in the freebie section a 6 spiritual laws of wealth free training that I highly suggest and share for anybody who's listening who wants to create a better relationship with wealth and prosperity. So both of those are on laurenoflove.com in the freebie section. I'm also on Instagram at Lauren of Love. I'm on TikTok at Lauren of Love. And we have a new podcast coming out by the end of the year, so stick around for that one.
Beautiful. I'm excited for it.
Thanks.
I just want to say again, thank you so much for spending this hour with me and just catching up, and also like all the good conscious nuggets that you threw out, because I feel like this is the type of conversations that need to be held in the space of how do we just get back to our authentic selves.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. It was beautiful to see your face after 4 years and just honor the change, the growth, the evolution. Like, really so blessed to be here. And thank you to everybody who's listening. And I hope this was helpful today.
Beautiful. Well, that is it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this one, please like and rate it down below. I'm still new to this outro, can you tell? But leave a review down below, and if this message served you and moved you, please go ahead and share it on Instagram or Facebook or however you want to do it, and just tag us. Let us know what your thoughts were. I would love to hear from you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.